one of the things that companies have to be thinking about is this personalization issue and where these challenges are breaking down. Where is personalization working and where is personalization failing when it comes to the digital ecosystem? Since you asked, let's go into the failing, first.
Yeah.
You know, I think one of the challenges that organizations are having is that they think that personalization is simply using the information they have about the person to put their name on something, even though they don't tailor the rest of the experience to them. So you've seen pictures probably of grocery stores that have put up signs for different holidays and putting discounted prices on foods that people who celebrate that holiday would not eat. That
Mhm.
is the visual representation of somebody sending a personalized or allegedly personalized offer to an individual for a program, product, or service that doesn't make sense. A few years ago, I got a call from a department store that wanted to know if I wanted to extend the warranty on my refrigerator. And my daughter was listening to the call and heard me say to them, I said, "You mean the refrigerator that is broken and you still haven't finished fixing?" And afterwards, my daughter said to me, "That wasn't very smart of them to ask that." And so part of the challenge is you have to understand the whole context. If you're going to jump into the personalization space, you have to be smart enough to understand the differences and the nuances and make sure that the information you're using triggers the actual offer that you're giving or the space that comes forward. The second side of personalization that I think companies fail on is not using that information to actually make a smart offer. And so it is actually a personalization challenge if you are not using the data about a customer to offer added value. So you're missing the opportunity to cross sell, to upsell, and to make
Yeah.
smart decisions. And that's really where digital and artificial intelligence begin to really help you. Because every time a customer opens an email from you or a text message from you, they are making an assessment about your company and whether that company understands you and cares about you based on the content of that message. So if you are sending a message that adds value, you're probably going to add growth and success. If you're sending a message that makes people ask, huh, does Nav get me? You're probably losing some value in some spaces. The last thing that I'd really note is that when it comes to personalization, I think that there's also a uh, key element that people need to consider, and that is the ease of somebody doing business with you. So I
Mm.
love that when I go back to one of the line retailers that I go to, that it's easy for me to order the same products that I just ordered in things. As a matter of fact, it was my dogs and it's their dog food. And so when I go onto Costco, it's easy for me to reorder the Costco dog food order to be shipped to me. That is helpful. What is not helpful is when organizations change the utility bill structure in reporting, and you are a son or a daughter who's trying to help your elderly parent navigate that same space. Because if the layout and user experience is different for every individual, it makes it really difficult for peers to give assistance and give help in what to do and to move forward. So, personalization has great potential, but you always have to come back to who is the customer? What is their use case? And how do we make sure that this is removing friction for them and creating the right relationship with the organization?
That tells like data maturity is very important here, and understanding of that data, making sense from it, and have your segments and have your journeys in place correctly, specific to the segment of customers, the user audiences.
Yeah. You're an expert in that, and I really appreciate the work that you've been doing and driving this forward. But just to go back to our earlier conversations, this
Yeah.
all comes back to how we build that buy-in across the organization.
Hmm.
So we shouldn't be thinking about our customer experience segments without talking to our sales team and finding out what information they need and what personalization elements they need in order to be successful in sales, and then making sure that we're connecting that to the frontline staff and collecting that frontline staff feedback that helps us build that ecosystem. One of the challenges of bureaucracy is that everybody works in a different department, but the thing that unites them is trying to drive business growth through customer satisfaction. So, how do we view our role as being that glue that helps connect and drive the organization forward?